on phone.
And in which direction were you what were you doing whilst searching on the phone? Were you sitting down, walking, just standing in the middle of the floor? What were you doing?
I was headed back upstairs.
And at that point in time, according to your version, Mr. van Breda, you were sure that all the intruder or intruders had already left your house?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it anymore.
So, were you on your way to go and check up on your family?
I'm not exactly sure, my lord. All I can remember is being on my phone and from there looking up and seeing over the stairs and seeing Marley and Mom, and then losing consciousness.
So, in your view, Mr. van Breda, why did you lose consciousness?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think it must have either been the shock of seeing Marley and Mom or from the fall down the stairs. I'm not sure.
But after you had fallen down the stairs, you'd gotten up.
Yes.
And you had, in your version, you had gone outside the house to check up or to see whether the intruders had left.
Yes.
And you were able to notice that the back door was open through the window. That's why you made the inference that they left via the back door.
Yes.
You also realized that you needed to get help or phone somebody, some sort of assistance.
Yes.
So it doesn't appear as if the fall down or on the stairs had very much of an effect on you up until that time.
Correct. But I also, my memory from that exact time is very vague. As I said, I don't know why I was heading up the stairs. I can only really remember that the study light was on because of the fact that I didn't have to look around and struggle to see.
Well, as I understand,
so it's impossible for me to tell whether that had an effect or not.
now, as I understood your evidence earlier, last week, you infer that the injuries to your back, both the bruising or the scrape mark as well as the scratch marks to the upper part of your back, those were from the fall down or on the stairs.
Correct.
When did you sustain the bump to your forehead?
I don't know.
You have no way of making a similar inference from when you must have sustained that injury?
Either from the fall down the stairs or from losing consciousness on my way back up the stairs.
See, Mr. van Breda, you are either very sure where you sustained certain injuries, when one has regards to the scuffle between yourself and the attacker, or you are able by way of inference to assist the court in saying that that must have been, the injuries on your back must have been when you fell on or down the stairs. The only one you're not sure about is the bump to your head.
Yes. I didn't even really know that I had a bump to my head.
And is this not also why you have difficulty in explaining how you fell down the stairs? I mean, you're able to direct the incident between yourself and your attacker, but you can't tell the court whether you fell on the stairs on your back or whether you rolled down the stairs, which are two very different motions.
Correct.
All that you are able to tell the court is that you eventually landed up on your back.
Yes.
Is that not, Mr. van Breda, why you have difficulty to enlighten the court as to how you fell down the stairs, because that is the only possible version in your whole version to explain the bump to your head. It must have been on the stairs. But now you have...
on the stairs, I fell onto the
Sorry.
I fell onto the stairs twice.
Mm-hmm. But now you have difficulty in explaining the injuries both on your back and on the front of your forehead.
Yes, because I don't specifically recall how they happened. As I said, I don't recall how I fell down the stairs. I don't specifically recall getting the injuries on my back, but I infer that that's where they must have happened.
Those injuries, Mr. van Breda, is it not because they are a combination of injuries that you sustained when Marley attacked you, when you attacked her, when she defended herself?
No, that didn't happen.
You should see, if you have regard to the photographs of Marley in hospital, Exhibit G, she has what the doctor agreed on her right hand, an injury which could be because of a fist having hit something.
Okay.
And the bump to your forehead was also described as having possibly been sustained by a blunt force injury, such as a fist.
Okay.
And falling back, if Marley attacked you in the doorway to the boys' room, there are many sharp edges there which could have caused the bruising to your back.
No, I disagree with that.
Which would also explain the difference in the bruising on your back and the scratch marks to your back.
Again, I don't agree to the premise of the question.
You don't agree to the premise of the question?
Yes, you first said that there was something that would have been behind me in the doorway that created those marks. I'm disagreeing with you there, and then you're saying that those marks can explain other things. I'm saying no, they don't.
No. All the injuries can be explained by Marley defending herself against you during the attack.
And that I'm disagreeing with. Because where exactly are you saying that I sustained the injuries on my back from?
Mr. van Breda, I will leave that.
Sorry, I'm trying to say, I'm just asking her to specify exactly what she's referring to when she says something behind my back that could have caused bruising and scrapings.
Put it to you, Mr. van Breda, the sharp edges is the door frame, there is the little step to the boys' room, there is an edge of a wall, there is the door itself, there are many sharp-edged corners in that little entrance to the boys' room, which could have caused similar injuries as described by Dr. Albertson. Not necessarily you fall down the stairs or on the stairs, which you're not sure of.
I disagree.
Where exactly on the stairs were you, Mr. van Breda, when you lost consciousness?
Just above the middle landing.
And how long did you remain passed out or out?
Well, when I regained consciousness, there was already lots of light coming in from outside, so the sun must have come up, and then I immediately went and phoned the emergency services again, so you can have a look at that phone call time.
So if one has regard to the timeline as...
Sorry, I will. I was saying we could, I'm not sure of the exact time, but we can have a look at the police timeline from the phone calls and get a timeline from that.
I was just about to put it to you. So if one has regard to the timeline as set out in Exhibit W, between the Google search for the emergency numbers and the first call to the emergency number, the actual call to the emergency numbers, that's a period of approximately 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Okay.
Would you agree then that that would be the time that you were unconscious?
Yes.
Sorry. Did you lose consciousness sort of gradually, that you can feel yourself fade away, or were you there one moment and
I can't really recall. I can only really recall what I saw just before I lost consciousness. I can't specifically say how I lost consciousness.
You have confirmed, Mr. van Breda, that you don't suffer from any underlying medical conditions that would cause you to randomly lose consciousness.
Correct.
Have you ever before suffered such a random loss of consciousness for more than 2.5 hours?
No.
And you confirm that according to your plea explanation, you also didn't use drugs at the time of the incident, which could have caused you to lose consciousness.
Correct.
Now, in your evidence, confirmed by the evidence of Dr. van Zyl, you consulted Dr. van Zyl in the evening of the 27th of January 2015.
Yes, I was.
That was
My
done.
aunt told that it wasn't my decision to go consult, but yes.
Did you consult any doctor regarding your loss of consciousness of 2 hours 40 minutes?
No, I didn't.
When you did consult Dr. van Zyl, why did you not inform her of this incident, of the fact that you lost consciousness randomly for 2 hours 40 minutes?
Because I was just there to get. I wasn't interested in talking to anyone, explaining myself. Anyone.
Dr. van Zyl testified, Mr. van Breda, that the two of you had quite a nice conversation during your consultation with her.
Yeah, I presume that was just niceties because.
You presume?
Yes, I don't specifically recall meeting her and having a conversation with her.
You do recall consulting her?
I recall getting the stitches, etc., but I don't really recall the doctor that well and the specific conversation that I had with her.
Why don't you recall the doctor, Mr. van Breda?
I don't know, it's a long time ago.
So it's not that you felt confused or dizzy, it's just a long time ago.
I don't know, it could be either of those things, I suppose.
So this event of you losing consciousness randomly for 2 hours 40 minutes is not something that you amended your version to address the 2 hour 40 minutes lost in the timeline.
No, this had been. I said this to the police. Changing anything.
In your plea explanation and your evidence in court, Mr. van Breda, you testified that you not only heard Rudy making gurgling sounds, but you also saw him moving rather violently on the bed, correct?
Correct.
In your statement, Exhibit SS, in paragraph 5, you make only one reference to Rudy after the initial attack, and that is when you say, Rudy was just lying there while your father was attacked. There is no further reference to Rudy in Exhibit SS at all. Either of him making gurgling sounds or of him moving about violently. You agree?
I agree.
So is this version of Rudy now moving about violently and making gurgling sounds, is that not an afterthought to address Captain Hubert's opinion that Rudy might have possibly been moved on the scene?
No,
Or handled, sorry, that's the correct word, handled on the scene.
no. Again, I didn't use the words, he was just lying there. I've specifically been asked, what was he doing whilst I was being attacked? I said, effectively, that he was incapacitated.
What did you tell the police about Rudy, Mr. Conrad?
So,
What if that was not your words to say that he was just lying there? What did you tell the police about Rudy?
I told the police that I could still hear him the next morning. So I was specifically inquiring as to his condition from Colonel Benedict. I was specifically inquiring as to his condition to Colonel Benedict, and he just told me that they can't tell me anything again. He just told, I was just told that they can't tell me anything.
And the police chose not to put that in your statement, is that correct? The fact that you had told them that you heard him the next morning.
Yes, it seems that way.
When you came to Mr. van Breda on the stairs, what made you notice the blood on the stairs?
Seeing it.
So that was the only blood on the stairs at that time.
Can't be sure of that, but I specifically saw a patch of dried blood that was at the exact height of where my stomach had just been, and so I inferred that it was caused by the stabbing.
Just to make sure, Mr. van Breda, you are able to observe this one blood spot on the down part of a stair and match it to where you think your stab wound must have been when you come to.
Yes, when I came to, as I was sort of, was initially very disorientated, but could, as I was getting up, sort of push myself off and listen. And yeah, it just sort of clicked that that was the same height that I would have expected, so it just sort of made sense.
But then how come you're not sure about whether there were other blood spots on the stairs?
Because I didn't specifically check.
See, Mr. van Breda, an interesting fact of your version is you cannot remember where more or less you stood on the stairs when you threw the axe after the fleeing attacker before you suffered the head injury, but you remember this specific one blood spot out of possible others after you had sustained, on your version, a supposed head injury.
Yes.
The remembrance of this specific blood spot, Mr. van Breda, is that not also an afterthought to sort of get some confirmation of you having lost consciousness on the stairs?
No.
In your version, Mr. van Breda, the reason why you did not call the emergency numbers on the fridge is you actually had considered the numbers, but you decided they will not be of any assistance.
Yes. Well, not that I decided they would not be of any assistance, that that I would be doing more by other means.
By other means.
Yes. By getting a number for the emergency services myself. Calling the security from the estate and having them call the police seemed like just another step where I could where I would then have to explain what happened to someone who would then have to go and call the police and explain what happened.
You see, because if one has regard to Exhibit D before the court, it is a photograph of the numbers on the fridge which you say you considered but didn't find that they would adequately assist you.
Yes.
There is a 24-hour emergency number.
Correct. I've seen this since, yes. Correct. I've had a look at this since, so I'm aware of the numbers.
But you must have considered it on the morning of 27 January as well, because you said you thought it wouldn't be of enough assistance.
Yeah, I thought I'd be better off speaking directly to the people who are going to help.
And there is also the number of the control room of the security of the estate.
Yes.
2 numbers of the security manager, Marcia Rousseau.
Yes.
There is indeed medical support numbers. Both a general practitioner, who's also 24-hour emergency number, is on this.
Can I have a look at that? One more.
They are all very nicely categorized. There's also contact numbers of friends, medical support, and other.
The headings are also in a different color, so you'll be able to scan the headings quite quickly. The headings are results of contact numbers. The next one is contact numbers of friends. The next one is medical support. If you read the medical support section, the first number is vet savers. The vet and the vet's mobile number for Sasha. Then the general practitioner, who does have a 24-hour emergency number. Yes, I can see that. And one hospital number and a dentist number. And then there's other with a handyman and a plumber and the domestic worker Clara's number.
So, Mr. van Breda, the question is, there's at least 2 24-hour emergency numbers, one for the Zalse estate itself and one for a doctor. And you telling the court that you thought these numbers would not be of adequate assistance.
Yes, I thought I could get an ambulance quicker than getting these people to get an ambulance. Because it's also an indirect way of getting help.
At that point,
Yes, I would hope so. Yes, but an ambulance would actually be able to help. They would get there, and then call for help. I thought I could call for help.
at this stage, Mr. van Breda, on your version, you were still of the view that both Marley and Rudy are still alive.
I was hoping so, yes.
Because you said you saw Marley move and you
Yes.
heard Rudy making gurgling sounds.
Yes.
Why did you not tell Ms. Philander, the emergency call operator, that 2 of your family members are actually still alive?
Well, I assumed that she was trying to save the lives of all of my family members.
Yes, indeed, Mr. van Breda, but you take the trouble of telling her that your sister is still alive, but you make no mention of your brother.
Okay.
Why only the sister, not the brother? Just say 2 of them are still alive.
I'm not sure exactly why I didn't say that to Ms. Philander. I did ask for more than one ambulance.
You did that, yes. If I remember correctly, Mr. van Breda, your evidence with regards to smoking the 3 cigarettes was you did that whilst you were on the phone to Ms. Philander in an attempt to calm you down.
Yes. Split the first one whilst dialing the number.
So, just to make sure that I understand you correctly, is it your evidence that you smoked all 3 cigarettes whilst dialing?
No, I lit the first cigarette whilst dialing.
And then the
I
second one?
I can't recall lighting the second and third cigarettes. I can recall there's one lighting that I can't remember, but I specifically recall lighting the first one whilst the number was ringing on my phone, on my home phone.
And excluding for the fact that you can't remember when you lit the second and the third one, they were all smoked while sitting at the counter on line to the emergency services.
Correct.
See, Mr. van Breda, in your statement, paragraph 10 of Exhibit SS, you said, I'm going to read to you the whole version as from the third line thereof. I then got hold of the emergency number and then called the ambulance, but I waited for 20 minutes on the phone in the kitchen. I then called Bianca, again at about 07:30, and then later again, but it went again on voicemail, and I then WhatsApp her, and then I got through to the emergency people, and then they told me that they are going to call the police. I then opened the front door, went outside for a bit, and then I went inside again and sit in the kitchen having some cigarettes while I waited for the emergency people.
Yeah, again, not my words. When I was telling this, I presume that this happened out of sort of them. By this stage, they were quite familiar with my version, and so they were sort of guiding me through it. And so they would ask me, okay, that's where you smoke the cigarettes, correct? And I said, yeah, that at the kitchen counter is where I smoke the cigarettes. But this timeline, and again, all the thens, is not my words. Yes, as I described, I had the cigarettes from when I made the phone call. So the way it represented here, saying I then opened front door and went outside for a bit and then went inside again and sit in the kitchen having some cigarettes, that's not true. That came about by being led through, by version being asked, oh, when did you have the cigarettes? No, I'm saying I told them that I had the cigarettes at the kitchen counter, but this specifically coming back in from the front door and then only having the cigarettes is not how I represent it, and I don't think it's how the officer that took the statement understood it either. So I also don't think it's how the officer that took the statement understood it. I think it's just.
Do you think they misunderstood?
I think it's what's being represented here is a misrepresentation of what both I conveyed and what the police officer understood.
So, despite the fact that the two of you were in agreement with what your actual version is, he writes down something else.
Yes, because, well, sort of.
Sort of, Mr. Van
As I've said, yes, I'm explaining myself now. Thank you. But as I've said, I would then tell them the story again, with Colonel Bianca saying, okay, another police officer coming in, tell this guy what happened. And then I forgot to mention the cigarettes. So they said, didn't you have cigarettes, or where did you have the cigarettes? I said, oh, I had the cigarettes by the kitchen counter. And so they put it in there. So this misrepresentation is as a result of me having repeated my story and then filling in bits of information from the various times that I've told them.
Because there is a difference, Mr. Van Breda, between your version in the statement that you say now they must have sort of gotten wires mixed or something, despite your
Words mixed.
words mixed, and what you're testifying in court. Because the statement creates a clear impression that You had already gotten hold of emergency services. You'd been waiting for them. You've gone outside, you come back, and then you smoke.
Yeah, again, all these thens.
The then is not important, Mr. Van Breda.
The then is
it's
important.
the line of
Establish-
events.
Sorry.
It's the
So she's saying that, just a response to you saying that then is not important. Then is important because then is the word establishing the sequence in this paragraph. And I'm saying the sequencing is completely incorrect.
Because the sequencing is different from what you're testifying in court now, Mr. Van Breda.
Yes.
The evidence now is that whilst you were waiting for the phone to ring, or the phone was ringing to the emergency services, that's when you started smoking.
Yes.
No time lapse between the emergency service and smoking.
No, it was at the same time.
You made the landline in your house, Mr. Van Breda, that is a cordless phone, is it correct?
Correct.
Whilst on the line to the emergency services, Mr. Van Breda, why did you not move around? Like, go and check on your family to tell them, listen, they are alive, or please come quickly, or shout, go out the front door and shout for help.
I thought I was doing the most I could to get help. I thought I was doing the most I could to get help.
Sitting at the counter smoking, waiting for somebody to arrive.
Waiting for an ambulance to arrive, sitting at the table on the phone to the emergency services. I suppose Miss Opdorf may have come and tried to help, but I don't really think that she would have been much help.
Why not?
Because I was already on the phone to the emergency services.
So not even somebody coming in, putting a towel to your mother's head, to Marley's head, to Rudy's head, to your father's head. You think that would have been useless?
I think if it wasn't a medical professional, then no. I don't think they would have helped. Correct. Correct. And if I thought that I had the capacity to physically help them at that point, I would have done so. But I didn't. Yeah, I suppose. No, I didn't think that I could actually help them. I thought that what I was doing was the most help that I could do.
If I remember your evidence correctly, Mr. Van Breda, the first thing you registered when you came to.
Take a break.
All right.